Good morning. Welcome to day 10. This morning I get the privilege to read to you one of my favorite interactions in the Bible. And it's actually depicted in the series The Chosen, which I recommend. And this scene in particular, the woman at the well and her interaction with Jesus, even if you haven't seen The Chosen, you ought to kind of Google that one, look that one up, and just watch the scene. It is so moving and beautiful. Today we're going to go verses 1 through 26. It's a lot of ground, so let's jump in. Jesus knew the Pharisees had heard that he was baptizing and making more disciples than John. Though Jesus himself didn't baptize them, his disciples did. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. He had to go through Samaria on the way, and eventually he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat wearily beside the well about noontime. Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" Jesus replied, "If you only knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water." "But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket," she said, "and this well's very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you be offering better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed?" And Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." "Please, sir," the woman said, "give me this water. Then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water." "Go and get your husband," Jesus told her. "I don't have a husband," the woman replied. Jesus said, "You're right. You don't have a husband. For you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You've certainly spoken the truth." "Sir," the woman said, you must be a prophet. So tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it's here at Mount Gerizim, where our ancestors worshipped?" And Jesus replied, "Believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him, for salvation comes through the Jews. But the time is coming, indeed it is here now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth." And the woman said, "I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he'll explain everything to us." And then Jesus told her, "I am the Messiah." This is kind of like a triple jeopardy situation, like 3 strikes. Number 1, there's a gender issue. Like, she's a woman, which in first century is, really subservient to men. It was very patriarchal at that time. But it's even more odd because she's not just a woman, she's a Samaritan woman. What does that mean? Well, the Samaritans, they were, let me put it this way. As a football coach, when we say that a player, that kid's a dog, that's vernacular means like that kid could play, okay? In the first century, if you were a dog, that didn't mean you were a great football player. That meant you were subhuman. You were filthy, dirty, and that's how Samaritans were described by Jews. They were a people that intermarried, which at that time was completely a godless act. They married pagans, meaning unbelievers. You talk about the 613 Levitical laws. They had very little regard for them, so they constantly found themselves in a ceremonial, unclean state. They were the dregs of society. So she's a woman, she's a Samaritan, and in the community of Samaritans, she is filthy and depraved. I want you to get this. I want you to understand the depths of shame. Why is she going out around noontime to draw water? I mean, first of all, you got to plug yourself into first century. Like, I'm just putting a pot filler next to my coffee machine because I'm too lazy to walk 30 feet, 20 feet maybe, to the sink to fill up my coffee maker all the time. So I got to have something right next to me. But you see, back then, forget about a sink. You'd have to take these heavy, these canisters. You'd walk to the well, you'd pump it. It was a very laborious task. The community of women, they would do it in the early hour of the morning because it was cool. Why is she doing this in the heat of the day? We know it's hot. It says Jesus had to stop walking because it was hot. He needed some rest. Why does she choose to take the water in the middle of the day? Well, it's very simple. Over day after day, week after week, she was beaten down and dehumanized by the community of women that would look at her and snicker and condescend and gossip and say cutting things and give her, the look, right? She'd get the look. And this daily crushing weighed on her so heavily, it hurt her so deeply, that she decided that she'd be better off going in the heat of the day where she could be out of the community and alone and avoid said consternation and judgment. That's pretty sad, choosing isolation. But I think the worst part of it was she knew they weren't wrong. And it's the inward dialogue that we have with ourselves that is absolutely the most damaging. Is it not? And this is the interaction that Jesus is going to have. And he wants to offer her something. And they're going to talk about water. And Jesus is saying, hey, would you give me a drink? And then he's engaging her. And right out of the gate, she's like, why are you, like, she's so stuck in shame. She's like, why are you talking to me? Like, you're a Jew. Jews don't talk to dirty people like me. And then Jesus immediately engages her and says, listen, if you knew who you were talking to and you understood what I have to offer you, you'd be asking me for living water. Water that when you drink it and you take it in, it will quench your parched and weary soul. And she's not quite sure if he's talking about physical water, So she's like, well, I don't know, like, where's your bucket? Where's the rope? This is a deep well. Like, this is a pretty good well. Like, this is the well that, like, Jacob gave to our ancestors gave to us. But I think some of this is tongue in cheek because I think she understands he's probably not talking about H2O. She says, you know what, sir? If you have water like this, would you please give it to me? She expresses a need. And now this is where Jesus really draws her out. Jesus says, go and get your husband. Wow. What, but doesn't Jesus know the situation? Jesus knows the situation exactly. In fact, this is what I want us to realize. Jesus knows her broken situation better than she understands and processes it herself. And he is going to draw this out. She says, I don't have a husband. And he doesn't say, oh, poor thing, it's okay. It's almost like he wants to really just get all of this shame to the surface. He goes, you're right. You don't have a husband. In fact, you've had 5. Jesus seems like he's being cruel. Doesn't it sound cruel? Isn't that what the women would be snickering? But here's the difference. Jesus is drawing this out so that this woman, it's a form of confession. He's engaging her so that she can be authentic and real with him. And she can admit and confess. And she says, sir, you must be a prophet. She doesn't deny it. And then, though, this is where she's a little uncomfortable. So now she says she wants to change the subject because it's a little bit too intimate right now, right? So now she asks a theological question. Why do Jews insist that they should worship in Jerusalem and we worship here at Mount Gerizim? And what I love about it is Jesus actually does answer the question. Those things aren't the heart of the matter. In fact, where you worship God is not nearly as important as how you approach God. And God is spirit, and he requires us to worship him in spirit and in truth. And he's saying, you know what? I'm here. This is what's interesting. This is how he's answering her question of why are you, a Jew, speaking to me, a dirty Samaritan? Jesus is answering that question now when he says, you know what the Father's looking for? He's not looking for the pure Jewish heritage. He's looking for true worshipers that are going to worship him in spirit and truth. And as this goes forward, what Jesus is saying is, you're standing in society as this dirty Samaritan woman that is the shame of the community. My Father has a place for you. And he doesn't say, go do this to clean it up, get yourself together, make yourself more presentable, then come back to me and I'll look at you and I'll let you know, no, you know what, you're close, but you got to go back. You got to do A, B, C, D. You got to take care of some things. You know, there's these ceremonial washings. You better go do those things, then come back. And he doesn't say that. He takes the focus off of her, going back to the past couple days. Who is the object of her hope? Who is the object of this lost woman's wholeness? It's not her. It's not her ability to clean her dirty mess up herself. The object of her hope is the person standing in front of her saying, if you drink what I'm offering you, it's going to cleanse you. It's going to wash away your sin. It's going to wash away and cleanse you from shame. It's going to quench the thirst of your parched and weary soul. And guess what? All my Father's looking for, he don't care what tribe you're from. He wants true worshipers that come to him in this needy condition, as they are, where they are, with a pure heart, worshiping him in spirit, in this transformed, born again, in this new understanding of their existence, where they've now said, hey, there is a hope, there is a righteousness that exists outside of me that I can cling on to. And it's real, and it's satisfying, and it's transformational. Give me this water. And then she says something like, I know there's a Messiah coming, and I don't know this for a fact, but as I read this, I kind of think that something's moving within her so deeply at this point that this is almost her shy, timid way of asking him. He'll come and explain everything to us, and then she's waiting on bated breath when Jesus says, I am the Messiah. And in that moment, all of the shame and all of her brokenness began to be released. The inner dialogue of self-hate, the voices of a judgmental community surrounding her, they became overwhelmed by the voice of a good shepherd who was calling his sheep. Of the good shepherd who said, come unto me, all you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest for your soul. What area of your life do you seek ultimate fulfillment in? What is the weight? What is the aspect of your life that parches you and makes you deeply thirsty? And his invitation is to drink the water he has for you. Think about that today. Love you all. Thanks for letting me share it. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Make it a great day.